In this chapter, we'll complete the game we've built by adding an end boss monster and a win condition. This video is the final chapter in my book, which explains how you can build your own roguelike game in Typescript from scratch. The book has now been published and is available at epubli.com, at thebookpatch.com, and various other online book windows. Links are in the video description. The game source code and these videos are generally available. Chapter 30. An End, How to Win. A way to win. The game we've built has no end. You can keep traveling downwards to deeper levels. At some point, you'll exhaust the monsters we've defined, and the game then starts to spawn living dungeon furniture that attacks you. Once you reach level 42, you'll trigger a minor error. If you attempt to descend deeper, some code complains that 48 is not strictly less than 48. That is, it tries to use a glyph that does not even exist. We face an inevitable truth of human designs. They either end with a finite limit or repeat endlessly. This is not strictly true. You might achieve some fractal random variation that keeps introducing branching levels of randomness. But still, you could then argue such pattern constitutes a kind of repeating. Design a means to an end. We can choose to design a kind of end or goal for our game. In a flash of divine inspiration, we decide our end monster will be a powerful dragon. It's obvious the dragon is powerful because we represent it with a big capital D. It will probably be red. We could even consider making it in bold font. Killing a big monster is a popular win criteria in many games. Another favorite is finding a special artifact, the Holy Grail, the Amulet of Yenda, and possibly delivering said item to a special place. The archetypical example is bringing the Ender Amulet back to the starting town level. We'll be less discerning. As long as you manage to kill the dragon, you'll be presented with the winning congratulations banner. Special, in what way? We must think up some ways the dragon could be special. Above all, we should give it some dragon attacks. It most certainly must be able to breathe either fire or some other kind of dragon breath. It should also do other trademark dragon attacks, tail lashes or bashes, and possibly some clawing. Maybe something with talons and fangs. It might also do some kind of mental dragon magic, confusion or paralysis or intimidation. The dragon might be fast. It may be able to teleport itself or the player. If we are really ambitious, maybe it can move through walls or destroy walls. If we want to complicate winning a bit, we could outfit the game with special dragon defeating items to find, which would help the player. It's then up to our conscience, if it should even be possible, to win over the dragon without them. If we introduce special items, we must keep in mind that our dungeon has level memory. Each level is only generated once, and almost no extra monsters are spawned. This means it's possible to run out of dungeon, and so to run out of monsters. If you killed all spawned monsters, there's nothing more to kill for a chance of loot. So if we introduce such required items, we must ensure they're actually available to be found. If we have item destruction, we should also be careful whether the required item could be destroyed. Location, location, location. For the dragon himself, we'll need to place him. Instead of placing him in an exactly known location, we could instead assign a range of possible levels for him and pick his actual position when we start a given game. To spice this up a bit, we could add a further rule. If you flee the level after encountering the dragon, we could reshuffle his placement. This way, fleeing the dragon would not be a safe choice. You would lose track of where the dragon now is, and you may even risk the dragon showing up on the level you just fled to, unless you fled outside his range. Given that we have monsters from A to Z, 26, we have 26 levels. We could then place the dragon between level 27 and level 30. For those deepest levels, we may populate them with a selection of the worst monsters. House cleaning. We must clean up the monster creation code. It should no longer try to make monsters out of dungeon furniture. The culprit is the method level to glyph in Builder, which is all too happy to provide us with any kind of glyph. Its upgrade we'll call level to mob glyph. It will refuse to provide anything but glyphs that are really mobs. To work with this, we'll also re-examine which levels we pair the mob glyphs with. Instead of just clipping it to a ceiling, we'll try to target a range of levels. We want to avoid ending up with only a single monster type on the deepest level. Note that even though we put a ceiling on the mob glyphs, we can still assign them ever higher levels to make them even more dangerous. Turtles all the way down. We'll ponder whether we want endless deep levels or not. We've already decided that the dragon lives between 27 and 30. So if you venture to level 31, the dragon won't follow you or appear there, unless we decide to change that. A reason for endless levels is to offer the player more resources to fight the dragon. This is also an argument against, namely, that the challenge should be to defeat the dragon with only what you're given across the first 30 levels. Interior decoration. On the one hand, the dragon should be a surprise on a level and so not reveal itself. On the other hand, maybe it would be nice to have a special level environment for the dragon. Also, if we could dim the lights somehow, the big red D would look much better against a darker color than pure white. How to train your dragon. What are the obvious areas in which the dragon could be strong or dangerous? It would have many hit points. It might heal itself. It might drain the player to heal itself. It might drain power from any nearby mobs. It might control nearby mobs to fight for it. It might have strong armor. It might be great at evading. It might have resistances. It might be fast. It might teleport around. It might alternate between being visible and invisible. It might teleport the player away or nearer. It might use the environment for danger, for example collapsing nearby walls on the player or hurling rocks. It might do a great deal of damage. Powerful attacks. It might reflect damage back so it hurts you back as you hurt it. It might have access to all the spells. It might develop immunity if you use the same attacks in a row. It might be high level, level 31. It might often teleport away if it feels you are too close. It might love to teleport away if it senses you are aligned with them. It might have a sort of environment destroying ability. For example, Dragon Breath. It gives a cool dragon effect and it causes you trouble. It might summon stuff. The plan. An order we can do it in. We can clean up our existing monster spawning code. We'll let it use a reasonable mix of at least 4 monsters. We can create the dragon glyph and make it red. This is extremely important. We can add the dragon level property to the dungeon and let the builder assign a random value from a range of 27 to 30. We can make the builder use add dragon when it tries to set up the map for dragon level. We can put an add dragon method in our builder. He'll be level 31. We can modify inner glyphs so the lights are darkened whenever we switch to the dragon level. We can give the dragon its own aggressive copy of Shoot AI, with a couple of Han Solo modifications. We can cook up some dragon abilities, at the very least, some dragon breath. We can implement a dragon breath spell. We can make a "You win" screen to show when defeating the dragon. We can temporarily spawn the player and the dragon near each other, so we have a reasonable way to try it out, to tweak it and balance it. We can create a special level for it. We can balance it all a bit. Implementation. First we clone the earlier builder to now 30 builder 2p. We will fix the add level mob so it spawns high level mobs instead of furniture. We change it to use this level to mob glyph method. Then inside glyph and glyph-inf, we will create a dragon glyph and also some fire glyphs for dragon breath. Getting the dragon into the dungeon. To know where to place the dragon, we want to extend our dungeon with the dragon level number and let it track a special dragon level. However, this would break our old code, which doesn't deal in dragon levels. So we'll make an updated dungeon class and an updated game 6 class to hold it. We clone 13 dungeon into 30 dungeon.ts and call the new class dungeon30. We clone 23 model game 5.1 into 30 game model 6 and change it to use the dungeon30 class. Inside 30 dungeon, we now add the attribute dragon level. Then in our builder, in the method initDragonLevel, we will assign it a value, and initDragonLevel will be called in makeGame. We'll have to generate a dragon level whenever we visit that number. So let us update our builder interface with the new builder interface 4. We'll change 30 dungeon to use this new interface in the getLevel method, so it will call the makeDragonLevels method. Then in the builder, we will have to implement this makeDragonLevels method. The idea is that makeDragonLevels is the updated makeLevel method, and thus makeLevel will just forward to it. Below it, we'll do the same thing for the method makeMap. So, is the game balanced now? Heck no. Balancing it could even fill another book. The easiest way to balance it would probably be to write a book about the game and then let the readers solve the problem of balancing it. For example, you could change Make Player in 30 Builder 2P like this. This way, the player would start out with 32 hit points. If he then fails to win, he gets a new attempt with 64 hit points, then 128, and so on. Sooner or later, we hope, he'll be able to win. You could then use what you learned during those tests to rebalance the game in various ways. To properly play the game, we should at some point disable the M command, which lets the player cast any spell. But during testing, the M command is really handy to try out possible solutions and broken solutions to various problems. A solution is something that solves a problem just right, and barely. A broken solution is something that solves it like a nuclear bomb, being way too strong for the issue at hand. That is, it would make the game too easy. The end of the end. With this, we've reached the natural conclusion of this book. We now have levels to play on, a player, enemies for him, varied behaviors for those enemies, spells for both the player and the monsters, a progression of difficult monsters, and an item progression path for the player to gain power. Finally, we have a difficult win goal to defeat with that accumulated power. We could continue to add features, but what the game needs more is balancing all through the various stages of the game. What now? As you work to extend your roguelike, keep in mind the balance between introducing new features outside previously covered areas versus extending and improving on the already included features. The latter will often serve you better, and including new areas will push the eventual completion of your game further into the future. It doesn't hurt that your roguelike continues to improve, but it hurts if it keeps it from being playable. Why do you hate graphics? I don't hate graphics per se. In fact, I like graphics. Using letters has some advantages. It lets us spend 1% effort on the graphics side of things and get on with the game. The problem with graphics is that they take work and time, especially to do properly. In comparison, if you tell a guy to just use the letter A, there's a high chance he'll manage to do so correctly. It's quite feasible to hook up the game we've built to some graphics. For example, there exists a JavaScript game engine called Phaser3, which we could connect the game to. I might write a guide later on how to connect to Phaser3. There's a similar story with animation. It takes some further work, both a design for how the moving monsters ought to be animated, and of course sprite animations for actions and effects. Above all, it takes work and time. Where are the roguelikers? They're on Reddit, hiding in roguelike dev and roguelikes. On the rest of the internet, you can find them on roguebasin.com, at blog.roguetemple.com, the temple of the roguelike, at roguelikeradio.com, a fantastic huge podcast, and roguelikedeveloper.blogspot.com, which belongs to Andrew Dahl. This guide is available as a printed book, How to Make Your Own Roguelike with Typescript. You can find it online. Bye.